please.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, one and all. Today, let me congratulate the entire fraternity of homeopathy worldwide. Uh, and I wish entire fraternity a very, very happy, healthy, and homeopathic year ahead. Our team is doing great job in promoting homeopathy worldwide, especially during pandemic, when modern system, the conventional system of medicine, does not have anything except the cruel, unreliable vaccines. So, in continuation with the Zoomathon, this 24 hours Zoom meeting, now I call upon my doctor, Dr. Taura Ahmed. Dr. Taura Ahmed she is going to speak on importance of constitution and prescription. Dr. Taura, are you there? Dr. Taura? Please unmute.
Whom to unmute?
Yes. Dr.
Can you
Taura.
raise the hand? Those who wish to get unmuted, can you raise your hand so that we can identify you?
Taura Ahmed.
Please raise the hand. Go to the participant list and raise your hand. Okay. Ahmad Khan, Sarfaraz Ahmad Khan.
No. Taura Ahmed.
Can you raise your hand?
Ahmed.
Please raise your hands.
Dr. Taura?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Is the screen visible right now?
No.
You on your video also?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Is the screen visible right now? Hello? Hello?
You're audible,
yeah, we can hear you.
Visible to us.
So please allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, you can share.
Yeah. Now we can see.
Yeah, coming out.
Is it all right now?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Myself, Dr. Tahura Ahmed. I am postgraduate trainee in National Homeopathic Medical College and Hospital, Lucknow, India. And first of all, I would like to congratulate everyone for World Homeopathy Day. And I hope we keep working towards a good direction. So my topic is importance of constitution and prescription. But before telling you about the importance, I would like to discuss where this term came from, right? So whenever we study organon of medicine, although here in India we study its English translation, right? But since actually it was written in German text, we will often find a term that Hahnemann sir used, Beschaffenheit, okay, translated which was a German term which usually translated as constitution in English, right? And again, this constitution, the term originated from a Latin root, constitution. Also, the Chambers Dictionary defines constitution as the natural condition of body or mind or disposition. So we can conclude that the net effect of our inherited genetic factors come the environmental influences are responsible for deciding or defining the constitution of a person or an individual. Whenever we go into philosophy, right, we may find Dr. Stuart Close Definition of constitution. So according to Dr. Stuart Close, constitution is that aggregate of hereditary characters which are influenced more or less by environment, which determines the individual's reaction. The reaction may be successful or unsuccessful to the stress of environment, right? तो constitution basically क्या है? वो hereditary factors जो हमने अपने parents से inherit किए, हमने अपने mother father से inherit किए, plus जिन पे हमारे current environment का positive या negative influence पड़ता है, और ये दोनों ही factors that are hereditary characters as well as the influence of environment, ये किसी भी इंडिविजुअल का एक एक्सटर्नल स्टिमुलस के लिए क्या रिएक्शन होंगे वो डिसाइड करता है. सिमिलरली डॉक्टर एम.एल. धावले describes constitution as that constitution represents the end result of influence of environment on hereditary characters. क्या है constitution? The end result of influence of environment on hereditary characters. हमारे hereditary characters पे हमारे external environment का क्या influence हुआ, ये किसी भी person को define करेगा, उसको बाकी individual से distinct बनाएगा and उसका constitution describe करेगा. So in short, we can conclude that hereditary characters along with the environmental factors decide the constitution of the person, right? Similarly, we may find here we are discussing hereditary characters and environmental factors. Sometimes we come across the terms like endogenous factors and exogenous factors. So endogenous factors, what are endogenous factors? That are innate in our body, right? That means our hereditary characters. And exogenous factors, the effect of environment, the influence of environment or our external living conditions, our external environment are also known as exogenous factors. And their intermingling, right? Or their combination describes constitution of a person. And this was from philosophy or the literal meaning. When we go into organon of medicine, like here I would like to quote Hahnemann Sir's fifth aphorism from Organon of Medicine, the sixth edition of Organon of Medicine, wherein he states that useful to the physician in assisting him to cure are the particulars of the most probable exciting cause of the acute disease, as also the most significant points in the whole history of chronic disease, to enable him to discover its fundamental cause, which is generally due to a chronic miasm. In these investigations, the ascertainable physical constitution of the patient, right? I repeat, the ascertainable physical constitution of the patient, especially when the disease is chronic, like his moral and intellectual character, his occupation, his mode of living and habits, his social and democratic relations, his age, sexual functions, etc., are to be taken into consideration. So this was the aphorism. Yeah, this is the aphorism where our master has emphasized the importance of constitution and has literally described the terms that we must take into consideration, especially when we are dealing with a chronic case, right? So what are the factors? I would like to repeat: his moral and intellectual character, his occupations, his mode of living and habits, social and domestic relations, his age, sexual functions, etc. So here among these terms or these factors, we can see that we get to find both the exogenous factors, that is the environmental influences, as well as the endogenous factors, that are a person's hereditary characters, right? So we can in short tell that, or we can say that constitution is a very broad term, right? But we limit ourselves or we just consider 2 to 3 factors. But no, constitution is a term that covers vast dimensions. But again, I would like to say that it is inadequately understood. It consists chiefly of following what factors, like physical makeup of a person,
Sorry to
his
interrupt
temperament.
you.
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
You should go little fast.
Hello.
Dr. Nudan, your voice is
Little
not
faster.
proper.
Yeah, be faster. Hello,
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Taura.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just go a little faster.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, okay. Okay. So the factors we must consider when we are considering a patient's constitution are physical makeup, his temperament, relation to heat and cold, desires, aversions, or intolerance to any food or item. Then his miasm, his diathesis, his susceptibility and his responsiveness or responses, his addictions, habits, and a lot more factors. So it includes basically it includes all the factors that work in his framing and make him distinct and different from others. Here I would like to emphasize a term that is known as constitutional diagnosis, right? We often come across two terms. One is constitutional diagnosis and the other one is constitutional prescription. So first, constitutional diagnosis, right? What is constitutional diagnosis? All those factors that make a person different or distinct from other individuals in his state of health, right? What are his peculiarities? What are the factors that individualize him during his state of health? Is considering those factors is known as making a constitutional diagnosis. And what is constitutional prescription? Uh, Selection of remedy on the basis of these distinct characters is known as constitutional prescription. But again, here I would like to quote Dr. H.A. Roberts when he says that the SNP is just depending on the constitution or temperament of temperament for prescription is not the right way of prescription. No, it judging a person as pulsatilla patient or nux vomica patient just because of his appearance and not considering the other factors is not right. So we may say that constitution as well as temperament are useful in guiding us for selection of the remedy, but they are not the sole factors that decide a remedy. Ultimately, it is the totality of symptoms that we should rely on for our prescription. And with this, I would like to conclude myself. Thank you for giving me such an opportunity. Thank you, Nutan ma'am. Thank you, IFPH. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Taura. Yes, you said Dr. Herbert Robert also said that no single symptom, no matter how strong, rare, peculiar, and strong without the support of well taken case and the sickness of whole patient, the remedy. Like
There is a network issue. Please unmute from your side. Yeah. Unmute from your side. Yeah. You just touch once only, Dr. Nudan. You just, yeah. Now it is audible. You can speak.
Dr. Sana, are you there? Unmute yourself.
And
Dr.
also
Sana.
one more request. Those who present here should leave the email ID in the chat box so that we can send the certificate of appreciation and participation to you, to your email ID. Dr. Tahura, you can leave your email ID so that we will be sending your certificate to you.
Sure,
through
sir.
email.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Sarfaraz Ahmed Khan. Dr. Sana. Dr. Sana. Dr. Sana, have you logged into Sarfaraz Ahmed Khan?
Please raise your hand.
Sana, raise your hand.
Next speaker, please raise your hand so that we can unmute you and pin you.
Dr. Sana, have you logged in through Sarfaraz Ahmed Khan? Please reply. Raise your hand.
Please raise your hand, Sarfaraz.
Yes.
You raise your hand to identify you.
Please unmute. Sir, please unmute her.
Yeah, to identify, to unmute, please raise his hand.
Sarfaraz Ahmed Khan, please raise your hand, Sana.
What?
Yeah, audible.
No, not raising the hand, raising hand in the computer. Go to the participant
already
list and raise your hand.
Unmuted, sir. He can talk.
Okay.
Or he or she can talk.
Okay. Dr. Nodhan, your camera, you're out of focus. You're
Good morning to all of you. Is my screen visible?
yes. You have 9 minutes remaining.
Yes. So I'm going to tell you a brief about the history of homeopathy in India. How does this started? First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Sana Khan, a postgraduate trainee in National Homeopathic Medical College and Hospital, Lucknow, India. Secondly, I'm gonna tell a little bit about how homeopathy started in India. So as we all know that the founder of homeopathy was Dr. Christian Frederick Samuel Hahnemann, who was born in 1755 till 1843 his time was, and he started the homeopathy on the principle similia similibus currente, that the let likes be treated by like. Then how does this started in India? The history of homeopathy in India can be traced to the early 19th century, to the German missionaries treating people on the shores of Bengal. And in India, that means it started in the West Bengal in 19th century. The first account of the treatment is mentioned in the travelogue of the 35 years in the East adventure discoveries, etc. of the Dr. Honigberger, a physician and a student of Dr. Hahnemann. He treated the legendary Maharaja Ranjit Singh of Punjab with Dalkamara. And then what are the other milestones? In 1839, Dr. Honigberger treated Maharaja Ranjit Singh of Punjab. Then 1845, homeopathic hospital started by surgeon Samuel Tanjore and Padicuta in South India. In 1848, the great epidemic of the cholera was started being treated with the homeopathy by Dr. Rutherford Russell and Dr. Cooper in India. After that, in 1861, Babu Rajendra Lal Datta, the father of Indian homeopathy, brought homeopathy into the high steam. After that, in 1967, Dr. Maharaja Mahendra Lal Sarkar, who was a pioneer in homeopathy, he did his scientific researches in India. Then Dr. Leopold Salzer of Vienna University, he practices homeopathy in Calcutta. Then after 1867, in 1868, the first journal of homeopathy, the Calcutta Journal of Homeopathic Medicine, published and edited by Dr. M.L. Sarkar. In 1881, first homeopathic college, Calcutta Homeopathic Medical College, was established by Dr. P.C. Majumdar and Dr. D.N. Roy Bose, which is also established in Kolkata. In 1937, first resolution of homeopathy moved by Mr. Riaz, adopted by the Bengal Legislative Assembly. In 1943, the Bengal provincial government accorded official status to the homeopathy and constituted the General Council of Homeopathy and State Faculty of Homeopathy. In 1944, All India Institute of Homeopathy, an associate of the institution qualified practitioner, was formed. In 1948, resolution moved by Shri Satish Chandra Samantha, Parliament West Bengal, for recognition of the homeopathic by Indian Union. In 1949, the Homeopathy Inquiry Committee submitted its report and recommended constitution of Central Council of Homeopathy. In 1951, a committee to the advice on the members related to homeopathy appointed by the Planning Commission. In 1952 to 1954, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, the then Union Health Minister, Government of India, constituted an ad hoc committee for the homeopathy. The ad hoc committee replaced by the Homeopathic Committee with the Secretary, Ministry of Health, and Chairperson. In 1955, the Postal Department issued a special stamp in cancellation of the April to the commemorate Dr. Hahnemann's bicentennial birth anniversary. In 1961, first faculty of homeopathy was created in the Agra University, affiliated the National Homeopathic Medical College, which is our college, established in Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. The 1962, the first Indian Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia Committee was set up. The director was B.K. Sarkar. In 1963, Research Committee of Homeopathy constituted to give the credit to research in the homeopathy and establish its. In 1964, the central government constituted a Rural Homeopathic Medicine Aid Committee. In 1965, Central Council of Health recommended that the Central Council of India System of Medicine may be set up, regulate standard in education. In 1967, India played host for the first time for International Homeopathic Congress. Then in 1969, Central Council of Research in Indian Medicine and Homeopathy was constituted. In 1971, first volume of Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of India was published. In 1973 to 1974, the Central Council Bill was passed in Parliament. Central Council of Homeopathic Act was constituted in this year also. In 1975, the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia Laboratory was established in the Ghaziabad, which is also stated in my state, which is Uttar Pradesh. And then in 1975, the National Level Institute, which is NIH, National Institute of Homeopathy, was established in the West Bengal, Kolkata. Then in 1977, Hahnemann stamp issued by the Ministry of Communication, which released a first day cover depicting Dr. Hahnemann. In 1978, CCH, Central Council for Research in Homeopathy, was full-fledgedly established. And after that, in 1983, the Government of India approved a minimum standard for the diploma and degree courses in homeopathy, that is bachelor's in homeopathy. Degree was started from that date. Then in 1995, a new Department of Indian System of Medicine and Homeopathy was created in the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Renamed this department as the Ayush, which is consist of other system of medicines also, along with the homeopathy. Homeopathy is an integral part of the system. In 1997, the first National Convention of Homeopathy organized by the Department of Ayush, Government of India. Then I'm going to tell you a bit about the evolution of homeopathy in Uttar Pradesh, which is my state currently, obviously. My institution, which is National Homeopathic Medical College, Lucknow, this was established in 1921 and became the Government Homeopathic Medical College in 1968. In 1951, Homeopathic Medicine Act was constituted. And 15 medical college in private sector was established. This private college failed to maintain a standard of education. As a result, the management of these colleges taken over by the state government. Out of 15 homeopathic medical college, were merged with the province colleges and imposed ban on the opening of the new colleges. Merged 3 homeopathic medical college in 2001. Only 7 homeopathic medical college, which is run by the government till date. In the year 1964 to 1965, the UP government established 2 state homeopathic dispensaries, which is as present amount in the 1482. This is the list of colleges currently running in Uttar Pradesh. 9 government medical college and 3, actually there are only 2 listed, but there are 3 private colleges of homeopathy running currently in my state. That means 9 plus 3, which is 12. Total 12 college itself is running into Uttar Pradesh. And what different leaders in India has stated anytime about homeopathy, that I'm going to tell a little bit. Mahatma Gandhi, which is obviously famous worldwide, the father of Indian nation, he stated about homeopathy that the homeopathy is the latest and refined method of treating patient economically and non-violently. Government must encourage and patronize it in our country. That's what Mahatma Gandhi has told about homeopathy. Then after him, Honorable Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man of India, he said that homeopathy is supposed to work in the miracles. He said that homeopathy works like a miracle. After him, Swami Vivekanand, and he said that an allopath comes and treats the cholera patient and gives them his medicine, but the homeopath comes and gives the medicine and cures perhaps more than the allopath does, because the homeopath does not disturb the patient but allows the nature to deal with them. He clearly understood the principle of homeopathy and stated his remarks. Honorable former President Government of India Rajendra Prasad, who was the first president of India, he stated that I believe homeopathy as a system of cure has great scope in the poor country like India and deserves encouragement. Honorable President Government of India Shri K.P. Narayan had said, homeopathy treatment is my first right, and not only for me but also for my family. Homeopathy should be developed as full-fledged alternative system in medicine. More research and more development are essential. More popular and useful homeopath treats the more compassionate way. Homeopathy is the second largest system of practice medicine being practiced in India. The Nobel laureate Dr. Ravindranath Tagore said that it is not merely a collection of medicines, but a new science with a rational philosophy. We require more scientific interest and query into with special stress upon the Indian environment. Former President, Government of India, Dr. Swami Radhakrishnan stated that the homeopathy did not merely seek to cure a disease, but treated a disease as a disorder of the human organism. This was also recognized the Upanishad, which spoke of human organ as a combination of mind and spirit. See the principle of homeopathy. It was also mentioned in the in Indian Upanishads that it is consist of the mind and the spirit.
Dr. Sarfaraz, your time is over.
Yes,
please conclude.
Yeah, it was my last slide. Homeopathy would play an important part of public health of the country along with the other system of medicine facilities in India. So scanty the homeopathy can confident the visualize a vast field of expansion. And I have collected the slides from these sources. Thank you very much. This is a very short view of a history of homeopathy in India and especially of my state, which is Uttar Pradesh. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Sarfaraz, and thank you, Dr. Nudan. Next